For being here tonight. Before we get started, can I ask you all, take a nice deep breath in. One more. Okay, I can do this now. So, am I really doing this? Someone pinch me. No, seriously. Okay, you can't come up, but seriously, somebody pinch me. It feels so surreal to be up here on this stage, sharing a story with all of you, but I didn't think I had the courage to share. She's coming in a minute. So I invite you all to come on a journey with me as I take you through what's been happening. This morning started like any other morning. Got up, had breakfast, walked the dogs, went about my business. But as this moment started getting closer, my nerves started to kick in. As I was picking out my outfit, getting myself ready, one quick look in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, I've got this. Made my way to the car, I got in, I buckled up. I didn't even have a chance to play the playlist, select what I wanted to hear when that pesky voice started. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? And you want to go and do a TED Talk? Seriously? They're going to laugh at you. Quit while you're ahead. Nobody will know. Seriously? Is that all you've got to say to me? As I glanced over to my passenger in the car next to me. She's staring back at me with that mum stare. You know that mum stare, that looks could kill? And I'm like, okay. I'd like to introduce you to someone. She is a very successful woman, very talented. She's also very compassionate and caring. I'd like you to meet Izzy. Izzy also has another name. She goes by the name of imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt that sinking feeling of self-doubt? Or when you believe your talents or skills are not quite what you thought? Or maybe, just maybe, you think luck rather than talent got you the job? Or have you ever set a really high goal only to feel like a fraudster when you don't achieve that? That's what Izzy does. You see, when Izzy decides to show up, she shakes your confidence. When Izzy decides to show up as a voice in your head. 58% of seasoned professionals in the tech industry have at some point said that they have experienced the imposter syndrome. 75% of women executives, some point in their life, have also experienced the imposter syndrome. And look at this, 87% of entrepreneurs have experienced the imposter syndrome. So we're not alone. This is something that is amongst all of us in highly successful individuals. The term imposter phenomenon was coined in 1978 by Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes. It's that nagging feeling that no matter what you do, you're just waiting for someone to point the finger at you and shout out, "You're a fraud." I want us to go back a little bit, and I want to tell you a little story about my first encounter with imposter syndrome. It was a time where I should have been my happiest, my proudest. I'd worked really, really hard to get this job. And no matter what I did on that day, it didn't feel like it. On my very first day, as I sat at my desk and I looked around, receiving welcome messages, that voice in my head, you don't belong here, you don't belong here, you don't belong here. And with every passing minute, and I looked around at my colleagues, so together, so talented, what was I doing? Meetings became a battleground, not sure whether I should speak up or not. And then my big break came. I was asked to do a presentation. I thought, yes, my chance to prove I deserve a seat at the table. I prepared my presentation until my voice was raw. I polished every slide until I could see my face in it. The big day came. Here I was at the front of the room talking. And with me was an unhappy gremlin shouting in my ear the whole way through my presentation, thinking, what on earth am I doing here? I come to the end of the presentation and the room erupts in applause. Whoa, no, can't be. Everybody came up to congratulate me and said, thank you, that was fantastic. Fantastic insights. We loved your presentation. But all the time, inside, I felt uncomfortable. I felt they were only being nice to me. I thought they were only being polite. That night, I went home, sat by myself with a big bag of emotions of what was going on. Why did I feel like this? Why did I feel like an imposter in my own story? So I decided to speak to my mentor, and I told her how I was feeling and what had happened. And she said to me, do you know how many people feel the same as you? You're not alone. Maybe you're not used to celebrating your wins and your successes, your accomplishments. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, oh my God, she's right. It wasn't just about my accomplishments, it was also about how I saw myself. So from that day forward, I decided that I would start to celebrate my wins, no matter how small or how big, they needed to be celebrated. I kept a journal of all my accomplishments, and I would go back and check over them. Now, the voice in my head didn't stop, but Izzy started to diminish. She became quieter. And as she became quieter, I began to celebrate more and more of my wins. There are also celebrities who have been known to have come out and said that they have imposter syndrome. Tom Hanks, Michelle Pfeiffer, Arianna Huffington, even Albert Einstein has purported to have felt, as an imposter at some point in his life. So I want to fast forward a little bit. Thank you, gentleman who was there. I'm in a new career role now, and I'm in a meeting with my client. I am completely confident, in the zone. I know exactly what I am doing. We've mapped out the whole session. I am in the same zone as my client, and everything is going on perfect. I should say I felt like a mini version of Tony Robbins because he's quite big. A mini version. And right in the middle of everything, right on cue, guess who turns up? Yep, Izzy decides to come in and join me. She whispers something in my ear that literally makes my brain short circuit. Whoa, I froze. What am I going to do? Maybe you're right. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not talented. Maybe I will let her down. In that moment, there was only one thing I could have done. I smiled at my client. I said, would you excuse me for just one moment? I've stepped out of the room, took a deep breath in, and faced Izzy straight on, like we were in a courtroom face-off. I said, look, you can either come in, sit down, and join me, or take a hike, because I'm in charge now. So decide what you want to do. I go back into my room, take a nice deep breath, and I finished the session like a pro. Yes, everything was calm. Now, as I stand before you here today, not as someone who's vanquished imposter syndrome, but as somebody who's learned to embrace it and make it part of my journey. Because what I've become to learn is that every time Izzy comes into me, into my life, into my head, it's because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm expanding, I'm growing, I'm breaking those barriers that have been limiting me. So when Izzy does turn up, I feel that I'm on the right path. You see, the method that I've used, even though I've used many tools and techniques in order to calm Izzy down, Izzy's never going to go away, and I don't want her to go away, because it's a reminder that I'm doing things in the right way. I am moving forward, and I am achieving great success. But some of the basics which I started off with was to recognize and acknowledge my feelings were normal, that by understanding what they meant, it meant that I was growing. It was okay. I celebrated my successes and my wins. I knew that every time I wrote something down and I would review it, it brought that confidence up. If you have any awards or certificates, keep them somewhere where you can see them, because that is tangible evidence of your growth and your success. Share your experience. Imposter syndrome is not a taboo subject. The more we speak about it, the more it loses its power. I was shocked at how many people told me they had imposter syndrome when I confided in them how I was feeling. We are not alone. There are many of us, so we can support one another and overcome and quieten down that voice. If there's something I'd like to leave you, ladies and gentlemen, with today, is that next time that self-doubt starts to creep in, where you question your abilities, I want you to understand you're not a fraud, you are not an imposter, and you are not alone. Instead, celebrate your talent, your success, and acknowledge just how far you have come in your journey and will continue to go further in your journey. This morning, when Izzy decided to join me in the passenger seat and questioning me, I remained calm. I looked at her and I went, staring at her and stared at her, and that's all I needed to do, because she knew now I was in charge, and she came along for the ride. Izzy and I are best friends. Thank you.
Thank you.